Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. It's Friday, November 15th, 2013, and I'm Leanne McAdoo. Here is a look at what's coming up tonight.
Tonight, what does the Obamacare fix mean for your health? Then, how cyber attacks are surpassing physical terrorism. And could killer robots be outlawed? That's next on the Infowars Nightly News.
My buddy did.
Don't say buddy. That means friendship. You're not allowed to shake hands in most public schools. First dodgeball, now no running, now no shaking hands. Don't say dad, don't say buddy, don't say gun, don't say bayonet. Man, this guy's an extremist.
We fumbled the rollout on this healthcare law, and we should have done a better job getting that right on day one, not on day 28 or on day 40.
Well, that was Captain Obvious confirming what we already know. And due to the fumbling rollout of the marketplace, Obama has reversed course. Now he is going to let insurance providers continue to write their insurance policies, even if they don't meet the minimum standards that are set by this problem-plagued law. He's going to let that happen for another year. But McClatchy reports that this fix could make matters even worse. The issue with extending existing policies for another year has the potential to destabilize the market, resulting in higher premiums. Now, insurance companies have no idea what's going to be the law tomorrow, next month, or even next year. The problem is that companies base their rates for 2014 on certain assumptions, including that plans bought after 2010 or plans that had been substantially changed would be canceled. So if more customers are now allowed to keep those plans, companies are probably going to have to raise the premiums and offer fewer choices. Nicholas Bagley is a health policy expert, and he said Obama's fix raised more questions than answers, from the effect on premiums to the ability of insurance commissioners to swiftly approve previously canceled plans. And he said it remains to be seen whether the effort is even legal. And as Mike Adams points out, the fact that Obamacare just rolled out yesterday and said, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and let this be the law. He's just acting like a dictator and just saying that I have the power to do this, when in fact, there is no power in the presidential office to do that. According to Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, it demands that the president take care that laws be faithfully executed. So at this point, the problem with Obama announcing that he will allow the insurance companies to avoid canceling the further policies and write policies that don't adhere to the law, it's just Obama doesn't even have the power to do this. So at this point, insurance companies have no idea what to believe, nor do the consumers who are shopping for the plans. And not to mention the fact that there is no mechanism in place that will force insurance companies to reinstate the policies that they have already canceled. So do you really think that these insurance companies are going to give people who they've canceled, give them back their plans and say, oh, you know what, you can go ahead and keep on paying $50 because you know you had a great plan that you were really comfortable with. Sorry, we canceled it. No, they're not going to do that. And there's no law or there's no mechanism in place that's saying you need to reinstate those people. So the people that have had their plans canceled are basically screwed. And of course, the people that haven't had theirs canceled yet are going to be able to keep them for the next year. So as you can see, this is creating all sorts of problems. What a mess. It's going to be an even bigger mess if you can believe it. But one of those people who had his plan canceled is Dan Bongino. He came on the Alex Jones show today to talk about Obamacare and what it has done to his family. And this is someone who is a former member of the Secret Service's Presidential Protection Division.
Yeah, this isn't the first time, though, either. You had the exemption for Congress. You had the out-of-pocket requirements he waived. You had the income requirements he waived. You had the employer mandate he waived. I mean, this is the odd part about this thick sense of politics on the side where they say, oh, it's the law of the land, and then they turn around 5 minutes later and they ignore the law of the land, which the law of the land, I would argue, initially wasn't constitutional, but as an extra slap in the face, even once they declared constitutional what wasn't constitutional, he unconstitutionally violated it. If that's like making your head spin right now.
Well, terrorism from the days of yore that brought you the indefinite detention via the NDAA or the Patriot Act or the gropey hands of the TSA, that kind of terrorism is no longer trendy. Now, according to the FBI, the new terror is cyber attacks. During his first testimony as the new FBI director, James Comey told Congress that while the threat of traditional terrorist strikes is now lower than it was before 9/11, the potential threat from cyber attacks continues to rise. That's where the bad guys will go, Comey said. There are no safe neighborhoods. All of us are neighbors online. Comey's comments were echoed by Rand Beers, the acting secretary for the Department of Homeland Security, with both men pushing Congress to expand the government's power to gain access to data held by privately owned companies. So expect to see more Stuxnet-style cyber attacks in order that they can overarch their powers even more and steal your civil liberties through either the new TPP agreement that Obama's trying to fast-track or the kill switch plan. Well, because the cyber attacks are likely to become that primary domestic threat within the next decade, the DHS has this internet kill switch plan, and it's no secret. We've been reporting on it for years. But now a federal court has demanded that DHS reveal its protocol for use of the internet shutdown plan. Now, in 2012, Barack Obama signed an executive order that allowed the DHS to establish and implement control over the country's wired and wireless communications, including the internet, in emergency situations. Even the privately owned communication systems in the country, including internet service providers such as Time Warner, Verizon, and Comcast. Well, an attorney for the Electric Privacy Information Center, who had read earlier versions of this kill switch protocol, said that the previous orders did not give the DHS the authority over private and commercial networks. She said that is a new authority. Google announced yesterday that U.S. government spying has actually increased triple-fold since 2010, and now the Silicon Valley nerds are fighting back. They've burned by the disclosures that they've cooperated with the U.S. surveillance programs. Google, Facebook, and Yahoo are going to use a harder-to-crack code that the U.S. government says won't be easily broken until 2030. The companies will shield their networks and online consumer data from unauthorized U.S. spying by protecting user email and social media posts with strengthened encryption. So now, while the NSA may find ways around those barriers, the companies say they have to assure users that their online connections are secure. But don't think it's because they care about you. Google, Yahoo, and Facebook generated $44.4 billion in advertising revenue so far in just 2013, in part by mining users' private data. And an August 14th analysis by Forrester Research found that the U.S. cloud computing industry could lose as much as $180 billion by 2016 due to the spying disclosures. So that's what this is really all about. It's not that they're trying to protect your data. They're trying to protect their money that they earn from your data that they sell. So one area I do not mind where the police are spying on the internet activity is cracking down on child porn, because you're disgusting and you need to be stopped. But in some good news, this week nearly 400 children were rescued in an extraordinary international child pornography bust. 348 adults were arrested after a 3-year undercover investigation by the Canadian police. Their investigation revealed an entire child movie production and distribution company operating via the website azoffilms.com. Police seized over 45 terabytes of data, hundreds of thousands of images and videos of horrific sexual acts against very young children. It was a $4 million business distributed over 50 countries. And what was most alarming, according to the head of the Toronto Sex Crimes Unit, was that many of the arrests were of people who worked with or closely interacted with children, like 40 school teachers, 9 doctors and nurses, 6 law enforcement personnel, 9 pastors and priests, and 3 foster parents. Police said the children were rescued from child exploitation, but they did not give more details. So glad to see that they're finally cracking down on these huge child sex trafficking, sex slavery. This is one of the good things that we have about being able to police the internet. That will be my only thing that I say, okay, fine, that's okay, you can do that. Well, Berlin has suspended the purchase of armed drones, saying that it categorically rejects illegal killing. The government says that before acquiring the remote-controlled craft, it must thoroughly examine all associated civil and constitutional guidelines and ethical questions. German Defense Minister had announced to the German public in May that talks were underway to discuss the purchase of U.S. Predator drones and Israeli Heron drones. But now they're not going to do that because they got to check the constitutionality of it. But although the German government has criticized Washington's use of drones to carry out strikes, Amnesty International has accused Berlin of working together with the USA and its drone program in Pakistan. And not to mention the fact that the U.S. just opened a drone facility in Germany last month, and unmanned aerial vehicles have been granted authority to traverse German airspace. So basically, I'll believe it when I see it, Germany. We know you're not going to let the rest of the world get killer drones and you're just going to fall back. But talks to outlaw other killer robots are also taking place today, giving another glimmer of humanity out there, people thinking that maybe the killer robots aren't such a good idea. But they could be made illegal if campaigners in Geneva succeed in persuading a UN committee to open an investigation into their development. People initially accused us of being in some kind of fantasy world, but now they have realized that significant developments are already underway. This was Noelle Sharkey, who was a professor of artificial intelligence and robotics. She said, at the moment, we already have drones, which are supervised by humans. But what we are talking about, however, is fully automated machines that can select targets and kill them without any human intervention. And that is something that we should all be very worried about. The campaigners think that there's a well-founded fear that computer-controlled devices could go rogue or be hacked, jammed, or copied by terrorists. And they also said we shouldn't hand over the decisions about whether something is right or wrong to machines. Now, so far, no country has admitted to developing this type of weaponry. So no country has admitted to working on that kind of technology, but we already know who's working on it because our tax dollars pay for it. I'm looking at you, DARPA and Boston Dynamics. Welcome back. Well, China's leaders have decided to ease up on their one-child policy. The one-child policy was put in place in 1980 to tame a surging population, but it's been criticized for not only draining the labor pool of future worker drones, but also for forced abortions and sterilizations in order to meet family planning quotas. But just like Obama's illogical insurance fix, China will arbitrarily reform the one-child policy by allowing couples to have 2 children if one of the parents was an only child. So China also plans to abolish its controversial labor camp system, which allows police to imprison people in labor camps for up to 4 years without formal arrest or trial. America's dictator, however, has yet to relinquish his power to detain U.S. citizens indefinitely. Now, moving from one overbearing authoritarian government to another government who is refusing to obey authoritarian control. Thought criminal Australia sent a blunt message to UN alarmists this week saying, no more socialism masquerading as environmentalism. The new government is led by a conservative-leaning prime minister, and it also explicitly declared that it would not make any payments or accept any liabilities as part of any potential new UN global warming agreement. That means Australia will refuse to play any role in a wealth transfer from rich countries to developing nations to pay them to decrease their carbon emissions. Now, while saying they will commit to reduce carbon emissions by 5%, leadership says it will review its position in 2015, reining climate efforts in even further if UN global warming theories continue to be questionable. Conspiracy theorists.
And we should have done a better job getting that right on day one, not on day 28 or on day 40.
Well, that was Captain Obvious confirming what we already know. And due to the fumbling rollout of the Marketplace 13, and I'm Leanne McAdoo, here is a look at what's coming up tonight.
Tonight, what does the Obamacare fix mean for your health? Then, how cyber attacks are surpassing physical terrorism. And could killer robots be outlawed? That's next on the...
Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. It's Friday, November 15th, 2000.
Infowars Nightly News.
My buddy,
Don't say buddy. That means friendship. You're not allowed to shake hands in most public schools. First dodgeball, now no running, now no shaking hands. Don't say dad, don't say buddy, don't say gun, don't say bayonet. Man, this guy's an extremist.
We fumbled the rollout on this health care law.